Hi everybody, thank you for joining us, and thanks to the DataViz Society for organizing this conference and allowing us to present in English and in Spanish. Our presentation is about DataViz for nonprofits. I'm Luis Ahumada, I'm from Chile. I studied political science. Now I'm based in Washington, D.C. I work as a producer in a policy think tank, and I'm a student in the Masters in Data Science at George Washington University.
And I am Guillermina Schneider. I'm a data scientist, originally from Argentina, and I'm currently based in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, so nonprofits. So there's so many different types of nonprofits that we can identify. For example, we have think tanks, we have a charity, we have international organizations, we have health organizations. There are so many different types that one can identify, but they all have one or multiple things in common, but one important thing in common, that is that they all have some information to communicate. And they all do this on different ways. For example, think tanks, they tend to publish research papers. Some other nonprofits, they post on social media, on Twitter, their data, their discoveries, their achievements. They post a lot of stuff on social media. Also, they tend to do these annual reports. So that's very common on nonprofits, or for fundraising proposals. We tend to produce these annual reports with our achievements, with some data about the organization. And also we can produce dashboards for the websites about the data that we're working with, etc. There are so many different formats and some different ways of communicating information. Also, there are some multimedia, videos, etc. Yeah, there are many ways. But what's important that we're presenting this because we think the ways that the data is communicated in these organizations can be improved. So what is DataViz for, or how do we define DataViz? So DataViz is a visual representation of data to communicate something complex in a simple way. And we can think about this definition in a more global or integral way. So it's not only the specific or traditional chart with an X and Y axis. So not only that, it could be a lot more. It could be a different thing, a different type of data, not necessarily a number. It could be a text, it could be images, etc. And there are different ways in which one can discover better ways to communicate different types of data. So we like to think about DataViz as something integral and not necessarily in the traditional chart way with X and Y axis. So that's one thing to keep in mind during the presentation. As I said before, every single nonprofit has some information to communicate. That's in the form of reports, research, social media, fundraising proposals, etc. There are different products, different ways organizations need to communicate their information. So why should organizations pay more attention to DataViz? Because first, they want to communicate a message effectively or more effectively. So they can always find better ways to communicate something. Secondly, they want to simplify complex idea, and that's especially true for think tanks. For example, think tanks, they have a variety of domains of expertise in which several researchers are working on something very complex and specific, and they need to find ways to communicate the discoveries, the results of the research, or the different data that they are working with. And they need to do that to the general public, and so it's better and it would be ideal for them to find simpler ways to communicate complex ideas. So that's one thing. Third, organizations can discover things within the organization. So things that might be useful for the internal of the organization, for the staff, to improve their processes, to improve their products, to think about possibilities that they weren't thinking before, or they weren't paying a lot of attention before. So when you start using new tools for DataViz, organizations can discover new things and they can improve their processes. And lastly, they will, if after implementing better ways for data visualizations, they can improve the general look or the design of the organization, and that means that they can achieve a brand consistency with the general brand or the look of the brand, the design, the logo, the colors, and all of that, with the way that they communicate data visualization. So we think it's very important to keep this in mind, that a data visualization product or the process must be consistent with the brand, with the design of the brand. So that idea of consistency is very important, because customers or clients or the audience is gonna recognize your brand on the different products that you are going to publish. So it's very important that the brand, the design, is always present on all the products. So how do we implement this better data visualizations? So Guillermina and I have been working in a policy think tank in DC, and we had some experience there about how to improve some processes or products when it comes to data visualization. So we think that the first step, it's a phase of discovery. It's an exploration about the products, about the processes that the organization is currently doing. So that's very important. One has to first identify what are the products, what are the processes, who's doing the different tasks, what are the responsibilities, and how do we produce, what's the process of production of our products. Because only when you clarify that information, you can find and you can discover new things and different possibilities. Secondly, we think it's important to establish a design guidelines or standard. So one has to study what are the needs of the organization, and according to the current design of the organization, the logo, etc., the colors, one can establish the data visualization guidelines of the organization. So how, in the future, the different DataViz products are going to be produced. And for that, there are so many different tools. So one also has to keep in mind or identify what are the different tools available for the different needs of the organization. And maybe some organizations have experts and they have programmers and web designers and a lot of possibilities when it comes to tools. And they can choose technical tools, but also maybe some smaller organization don't have the experts or programmers. But the good thing is that there are tools for everyone. There are tools that are very simple to use, and any professional can use, and those bring a lot of improvement to the organization too. And lastly, how do we implement these guidelines and the tools after selecting them? So Guillermina is going to talk about each step in more depth.
So when it comes to the exploration phase, first off, what we want to do is to identify each product. For example, in our case, we present data in a research paper, and that same research paper you can find it online. And also our scholars, they give presentations at other organizations, so they have to come up with a presentation, probably on PowerPoint, and they're gonna use some data visualization there. So it's very important to identify the different products. Also, many nonprofits, they do like an annual report at the end of the year that they share among the staff. So, and they usually include some charts, some stats of the organization's performance throughout the year, and that's another product where you can find the information on. Also, analyze the processes. This is very important. You need to know who responds to whom, who does what. These two steps within the exploration process are super important, because ultimately they're gonna let you discover other processes or other ways of doing things, other ways of probably implementing data visualization or doing data visualization in a different way, or they're gonna let you make pre-existing processes more efficient. So both identifying the products where you present your information, your data, and analyzing the different processes within the organization, those two steps within the exploration process are very, very important. So moving on, the second step, designing the guidelines. So first off, what we'd like to talk about is like the brand consistency. It is very important to be consistent with the overall look or image of the organization. So I would say there are like two ways of approaching the whole design of the data visualization guidelines. And I would say if you already have an image or a brand that is consistent throughout, the colors, the typography, the composition, the three elements that are very important when talking about the brand. If you already have that, then you can move forward and work on the data visualization guidelines, which is, those are going to be linked to that brand, that image that you already have. If you do not have established a brand or a look, then I would say put the data visualization guidelines, put it off, and then work on the brand consistency first. Try to find a typography that you can use across your publications, or try to find like a different type of layout for your reports. Try to find a set of colors or a color palette that goes well with your logo, with your website. And once you have that whole brand built, then move forward to and work with the data visualization guidelines, because like ultimately your guidelines are going to be linked to that whole brand, like the image, the look of your organization. There are like also different examples that we put together. The first one of The Economist, one example that we really like, you can see those three elements I was talking about before: colors, composition, like the layout, the way it looks, the typography. It's consistent across all the all their products. The same thing with the next example, UNICEF. We also included an extract of their Instagram account, and another example, Global Children. They produce an annual report, and you can see exactly the same thing: consistency across colors, typography, composition. And you can achieve all these things that we were talking about when it comes to the design of the guidelines with a different set of tools. For example, we included here the like more technical ones that you can, you need to know a little bit of a programming language, like I don't know, ggplot or matplotlib or Seaborn, Bokeh, D3 if you know JavaScript. But then we also included some more less technical ones like Excel, Data Wrapper, and that's how we organized or grouped all these tools, and we organized them in a chart that you're seeing right now on the screen. And a first group that we identified that's like more flexible but also requires a higher level of technicality from the person who's producing the chart. And here we included Matplotlib, Plotly, ggplot, Seaborn, D3. We also included Adobe Illustrator and After Effects that also give you a lot of flexibility when working with charts, but require like a higher level of technicality. A second group, Tableau, Power BI, Data Studio, and also Data Wrapper, that are a little bit less flexible. They don't let you do everything you want with a chart, but you also don't need to know like a programming language. You don't need necessarily to know how to run or write a line of code. And a third group where we include Excel and Infogram. Infogram is the one that we use at our organization. They are less technical, less flexible, but you can still achieve that consistency and produce good data visualization. So the main idea that we want you to take from this slide is that even with a less flexible and less technical tool for data visualization, you can still achieve a high level of consistency across your data visualizations. Then moving on to the implementation phase, this is a moment where you put your data visualization guidelines to work. And what we did, our organization, we trained the research assistants that are the ones who help our scholars in their research, and are probably the ones who are that work more hands-on, that do more hands-on work with the data, and they come up with the charts. They are the ones who are going probably to choose between a line chart or a bar chart. So we trained them and we gave them some tips, some do's and don'ts, some tips on what colors to use, what types of charts to use, what are the sizes, the different sizes that we need for web or for print. And we trained them throughout a whole day, and that's how we tried to achieve a certain level of DataViz standardization across the organization. But again, that's why the exploration phase is very important, because once you established and identify the different processes and the different people involved in, I don't know, the publications process, or who is in charge of putting together a fundraising proposal or the annual report. Once you've identified those people, then you'll know who you're going to train. So these are some examples of what you could be doing once you go through each step, each phase. We include here an example of the Urban Institute. If you go on their website and you see the reports that they produce, you'll see that they meet all these consistency requirements, color, typography. They have that very, very present every time that they produce a chart. Also, we included an example of the Cato Institute. This is a Human Freedom Index. Some pages of the Human Freedom Index, a report we're involved in, and if you look at the report, you'll see the same thing: consistency across typography, composition, and the different colors. And Human Progress, also, they do a really nice job on their social media accounts. We included on the right side of the slide. You can see this is their Instagram account, and you'll see that just by looking at it, you already see the content that's organized. And on the left side, they do also a really good job on their Twitter account, where they summarize or present some different types of data in this very innovative way. They use some icons, and they reorganize data in a way that's more friendly to the human eye. And you'll also see, if you follow them on social media, you'll also see the same thing across the different types of charts and images that they produce. So wrapping up, what we want you to get out of this presentation, out of this talk, is the main ideas of standardizing or making your DataViz in your nonprofit more consistent across your publications. So first, we talked about the discovery phase, where you identified the different products, identified the different people involved in the different processes, and found probably different ways of doing things, or making the pre-existing ways of more efficient. Second, then designing the guidelines. Remember that you need to take into account those elements: brand consistency, the colors, the typography, and the composition. Those 4 elements, they need to look consistent across all your publications. And then the implementation phase, in the discovery phase, once you identify those people involved, then you will know who you have to train, and who is going to be responsible of implementing those data visualization guidelines. And with those main ideas about standardizing your DataViz process in your nonprofit, we'll end it there, and we're open for Q&A.
Thank you.